Good afternoon, Turks and Caicos. It's a beautiful day here in Providential Valleys, and of course, a beautiful day across the TCI. That's why we're beautiful by nature. And of course, I want to welcome each and every one of you to the TCI Patriot Hour right here on Tropical Vibes 105.5 and 103.5 FM, the beat of the TCI. And of course, today in the house is none other than myself, Damian Wilson. For those of you that don't know me, former host of the morning show on Radio Turks and Caicos, avid patriot of the Turks and Caicos Islands, and of course, longtime youth worker. So I've been around quite a bit, done quite a few things, but now in the corporate world. And today I'll let my guests introduce themselves. Of course, we'll be having a panel discussion on national development. What is national development to you? What does it mean? How do we develop a country? I think that's one of the things that don't often cross our minds in daily living, but it's so important and so essential. So I'll start with the guest to my right. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Damian. First off, hello to everyone in Radio World. My name is Michael Hutchinson. Been not born in Turks and Caicos, but lived in Turks and Caicos for 28 years of my life. It's all I know, all I'll ever know, and all I want to know for now. I'm looking forward. I am a TCI Patriot, and I am looking forward to this conversation.
Okay, and my next guest.
Good afternoon, Turks and Caicos. My name is Kyle Knowles. As Mr. Hutchinson said, all I've known with Turks and Caicos, not being a born national of Turks and Caicos, but this is home, and I am very passionate about concerns and issues.
We do apologize.
And I am very compassionate about the issues and the concerns of Turks and Caicos. So I consider myself a patriot as well.
Okay, great. And of course, guys, if you want to call in at any point in time and throw out a question to any of our panel guests or myself, the number to call is 1-900-222-8423. That's 1-900-222-8423. Okay, and I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to throw the first question out there. What is national development? People don't often think about it, but what do you think is national development?
I'll take it on. Well, for me, I believe national development is the elements of how you structure your society in your day-to-day functioning, be it political or social, and making sure that whatever collectively you decide is the basis on which you're going to run the country is agreed to by all persons, and that it's the best fit for you, because as times change, certain things you would have to adjust to new policies and regulations and so forth. But that's just my thoughts on national development.
So just thinking about it, do you think you said it has to be agreed upon by all persons? So would you say that we need a consensus in order for national development to happen, or is it that the powers that be just come up with these policies and proposals and then we all go along with it?
Well, the powers that be they play a vital role in that area, but we are in a democratic society where there's, and if it was dictatorship, then of course, the route that would take. But in a democratic society, it's of the best interest to get persons' opinion. Granted, those persons in parliament and so forth would make the final decision. But it's good to have the backing of everyone in the country so that you know that you are doing something beneficial and substantial for the country.
Okay, Michael, what would you say is national development?
Just to elaborate on what Kyle said, I'll read the dictionary meaning of national development. And it's the ability of a country to improve the social welfare of the people. And that means social amenities, quality education, not education, but quality education, infrastructure, and again, not just infrastructure, because as I said, I've been here 28 years, and we had roads before. Now we have tarred roads. Now the question is, are the tar roads quality tar roads, or are they just roads? you had before? Do we sit back and say, yes, we have roads and I'm proud of roads? Or do we say, no, well, we have roads, but I want the best roads in the world, not only the Caribbean?
Okay, so I think I'm going to get a little controversial a bit early. And it's on what Michael said. You mentioned the fact of roads and not getting political, but roads seem to be something throughout the Caribbean that governments do right before an election, to say, look what we've done. So my question for you guys, in the TCI, I've seen where consistently, no matter which party is in office, we tend to pave the same roads repeatedly over and over and over and over. So in terms of national development, are we looking at good national development in terms of paving of these roads, or would you say it's not good national development since it consistently seems to be the exact same roads all the time?
Shoot.
Any one of you?
Well, my thoughts on that question simply, if we know the system that we operate under. At that particular point, when it comes to paving a road, there's no consensus being done in that area. So I think, it's just politics. That's to call a spade a spade.
Well, the question is, Kyle, do we have a national development plan? Because if we did have a national development plan, in my opinion, in my simple opinion, we would know whether we're paving this road once, are we cutting new roads, are we linking the islands, because you have now a master plan, a national development plan.
Correct.
That will set this timeline on what and where we're gonna go and what we're gonna do.
Okay.
So that I think is the question.
Okay, I'm going to get into the idea of a national development plan a little bit later, but coming off of the same thing you just said, in terms of the national development plan, at this moment, folks, I'd like to apologize for our other panel guest, Miss Angie Toussaint, who is unable to be here. She's not feeling well, so we do wish Angie all the best, and we pray she gets better soon. So, Angie, God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you perhaps in a future show. And getting back to what I was about to ask, in regards to the idea of a national development plan, right? And Kyle saying that there needs to be a consensus when it comes to national development. What would you guys say is the role of government, the private sector, and the electorate in regards to national development?
Well, I think what we should do is I think a lot of times we put a lot of onus on the government. I think as countrymen, we should definitely pick up a bit more of the slack and do a bit more. And by doing more, it will require your time, it will require your finances. But at the end of the day, the goal in mind is that if we have to move this rock from point A to point B, don't just rely on the government to do it. And I think it's a partnership in a sense where everyone is able to, like you said, work together. A lot of times we complain about so many issues and we just wait for things to be addressed instead of getting up and saying, well, hey, let me take the onus on, because a lot of times if I see Damian in need of something, I might wait to see what Damian's what is he going to put forth, and I might be able to come there and take that burden off of him. But a lot of times we just sit by the wayside and just have our hands out. We have to be proactive, and do something.
And I love the word you used there, Kyle, partnership. Between the private sector, the government, and the electorate, which make up a society. I think a partnership has to play a huge role. And with that said, I still, unfortunately, I don't like the word politics, but it goes back to our leaders. We elect our leaders. And it's our leaders, as in a company, a board of directors elects, or the shareholders elect a CEO, and it's his job to direct the company in the interest of the employees, the stakeholders who need to be paid, and for anything else. So I love what you're saying, and I agree with you, but leadership has to play. We can't sideline that. We can help where we can help as brothers. And I think we as a nation need to do that more.
So,
but we can't sideline.
so are you saying that
leadership.
in terms of national development, the government needs to play the leadership role that it has been given simply by virtue of being elected as representatives
by the people.
by the people?
Absolutely.
So, okay. And with that being said, do you feel that the TCI at this moment is utilizing good national development principles?
I believe there's room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you know, we're in this current situation right now,
Mm-hmm.
not of any fault of our own, but at the same time, you know, we just have to be mindful of who we are and what we need to do.
Michael?
I agree there can be improvement. For me, I only see certain national development is what it states, national development. I only see certain sects of
Certain
the country,
sectors. Mm-hmm.
benefiting from national development. As a country, I've been here 28 years, which is practically all of my life. When I moved to Provo, it was dirt roads.
Mm-hmm.
There were probably 10 cars on this island. We have come a long way in terms of development, but has the people benefited from the development? That's another question. For me, I've just been here as long. Shame on me. I mean, you guys can spank me, but I think I went to Grand Turk for the first time in school for a field trip, and I went for the first time again 2 years ago. I went to North Caicos again for the first time maybe 4 years ago, and every island is beautiful and unique, and we tend to concentrate on Provo for everything. Again, national development means no island should be left behind, and I see islands forgotten, and even for me, we Chinson's, I'll put out that I work at Chinson's, and for years I've served our people. We've always been a place that locals eat, but now I have the pleasure of serving visitors. And I think they put a different perspective on how we view our
Business.
island and everything, because as human beings we tend to stay in our little circle, and you know, I may think I'm the tallest person in the world, or maybe the handsomest person in the world. Your girlfriend may not agree. So
Well, my wife.
my apologies. But yeah, so I mean, they're giving their perspective, and I'm sending them to other islands. You know, go and look. Let's see, and from they can come here and they can clearly see that there's a divide in Provo. There's two different worlds in Provo, and that's something I never really thought about because I lived here. But it made me think: why are there two sides to Provo? Who's benefiting? Which side are you on? Which side am I on? We're supposed to be one.
I mean, that right there, that which you just brought up, two sides to Provo, that's actually a very deep issue, and it goes to the idea of culture, you know, and I've repeated this so many times since. One of my pastors at university said, culture, habit is stronger than any truth. And that stuck with me. The culture of doing something a certain way will prevent you from doing it the right way. You know, and so we get into this groove, and rather than assessing things and finding out if we're doing it the right way, we tend to say, well, you know, I've been doing it this way for so long, I want to keep doing it this way. And we get resistant to any idea of change. And with that, I want to throw something out. Sir Ronald Sanders. I don't know if you know Sir Ronald Sanders. He's a Caribbean scholar. I think he is a member of the, oh my goodness, I can't remember the institute off the top of my head. It's a London-based institute. They do a lot of research in terms of the Caribbean and economics and politics and so forth. And he used to be a university lecturer in the UK. He's originally from, I think he's originally from Grenada. I believe. I may be wrong, but I think he's originally from Grenada. But he wrote a piece several years ago, in 2007, called "Tourism for Whose Benefit."
Mm-hmm.
And he's written several follow-up pieces since that. But I found that the original piece, "Tourism for Whose Benefit," and if you guys want to read it, I have it posted on my Facebook page as a note. Okay. And it talks about how tourism mirrors the plantation economy of slavery. And this piece caused such a stir, that, and Sir Ronald Sanders is a very well-known scholar in the Caribbean, that a lot of governments were kind of upset with him about it, because he was saying how tourism, you basically have the same system that you had when we had slavery, where you have white absentee owners or investors, and you have local black employees that do all of the laborers' work. And tourism is a labor-intensive economy, And so he was saying that the economies of the Caribbean are not moving towards modernization. It's actually becoming more labor-intensive because of tourism. And because governments in the Caribbean tend to focus primarily on tourism without developing the other sectors. And after reading that, I took a hard look at the TCI, and I said, you know what, we kind of fall in that same category.
But I think that goes back to the National Development Plan. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't be guessing and bumping around if we had a National Development Plan that would set out timelines and, okay, our economy is 95%, 99%, whatever it is, based on tourism. Mm-hmm. We need to diversify.
Yeah.
I mean, from a security standpoint, we need to diversify.
Yes.
But I must put this in. I only started following politics, and I must say I just had a beautiful little daughter, Mayo.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Man.
And I started Michael Mizik Michael Mizik got me interested in politics. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, a cultural thing. I think growing up, I had no interest in politicians. You grow, you live, you have. But Mike was the first person who got me interested in politics. Mm-hmm. He was charismatic. He was preaching a message that was different.
Something you identified with.
Something I
Yes, you
identified
identify
with.
with, yeah.
Yes. And I got into politics. Not I get into politics. I started to follow politics. I don't want to be a politician. No, by no way, shape, or form. Now I have a daughter, and I've been following it since he came into power. I have a daughter, and I'm observing more and more things that are happening in the country, because now it's no longer about me, but it's about her.
You're more conscientious.
Correct. I'm more conscientious, and with that said, I'm being more vocal, because even though, people know me as someone who likes to talk, but I am talking more on issues and not just talking to hear myself. Mm-hmm. I'm talking more on things that I am observing. Mm-hmm. And I think our generation, the millennials, we are talking more, and
we definitely
we are more encouraging or more accepting of change. This word change that you brought up is really something that I think is happening across the world, not only here in Turks and Caicos, but I think this is the world thing. People are tired of the old politics. They want change.
We're also a bit more aggressive.
Correct.
And in being aggressive, granted, we want to learn more. We want more for our families. Mm-hmm. We want to be a part of something substantial in our country. Not saying that we want to eventually take over, and be the king of all. No, that's not what I'm saying. All I'm stating is that
we want to be involved.
We want to be involved.
Yes.
Granted, we know that we can't sit to every table when there's a meeting, but at least hear what our opinions are. We might be able to be that missing piece of the puzzle, because a lot of times, persons more mature than us, they would have already been set in their ways and in their thinking. I always have to argue with my father. He tells me all the time, everything goes this way. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm a bit older, I can argue with him, not disrespectfully, but we have nice arguments.
Kyle, I hate to interject, but I do the same with my father.
Yeah.
And every time I speak to someone else in this millennial generation, the Y generation, you in the past I never said much because you felt like I was the only one at home arguing with my dad, saying, "Dad, this is wrong." That's not let me. But I'll tell you what. And this I think is substantial or important. After a while, I mean, like you said, you're younger. You listen to everything that dad says or mom says, but now as you're older and you're putting points across, he's listening a little more, huh? Because he's seeing.
He's more receptive to what I have to say.
Correct.
Because he sees the pattern of my lifestyle changing. So now he respects me. Mm-hmm. He doesn't just love me now. He respects me.
Wow.
Okay. Now, on that note, with the older generation starting to listen a little, because I can say that, when I was growing up, I always heard this phrase, children should be seen and not heard. And it tends to linger on into adulthood where your parents feel like you should be seen and not heard. And we know in the TCI, and not just in the TCI, but in the Caribbean in general, we've had situations where parents say, all right, Kyle, you have to vote a certain way, or you have to do this a certain way. And now we're saying, well, Mom and Dad, I don't really agree with your point of view.
It's a different generation. We think different, we look different, we dress different, we talk different, everything is different, and it's everything cannot just be shoved down our throat. Someone came to my dad the other day and said, well, Alan, you got 4 votes in, which way you going? And my dad looked at the individual and said, well, I'm sorry, that's not how it works anymore. I'm so sorry about that. And I think that's the consensus across the Turks and Caicos. And I think even in this upcoming election, some of our politicians are going to be quite surprised at what happens. I am looking forward to it because it's going to be very interesting to see.
It is something to pay attention to. It is something to pay attention to.
I firmly believe it's something very much that's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to see how it plays out. And, getting back to the idea of national development, what do you think are the biggest challenges to national development in TCI?
Wow. I think, I can stand to be corrected, but I think the manpower in key areas, because we need to have persons in key areas who understand what the national plan or the national development plan is all about. If you have someone who's leading you who has a different agenda, then you're gonna find yourself in a hitch, because their objective is totally different from what the masses are saying.
Okay, let me ask you this, Kyle. With the idea of manpower, is the issue really manpower, or is the issue financing for manpower?
We can look at it from that angle, financing for manpower, because you have to look at the current situation now with, let's look at persons in the hotel industry. A lot of them they make enough to get by, but they don't really make enough to live. You understand what I'm trying to say?
No, I completely understand.
And they are just as much as part of the national development plan, because tourism is our major breadbasket here in Turks and Caicos. So we definitely need to hear what they have to say, because just like in any employment, on any job, if they're disgruntled, the service, you can't maximize their service and their and whatever they bring to the table, because why? They're disgruntled. So we have to be mindful of that.
Michael, what do you think the biggest challenges we have right now?
Division politically, division socially. I'll tell you this, just an example of what is happening here. For us to grow as a nation, we're going to have to allow people to come into our country. Now, who comes in, how they come in, and what they come in for is a different topic, but we're going to have to accept people. I have been here 28 years, and I was sharing a joke with Jamel, and this deals with somewhat culture. Born in Jamaica, moved from Jamaica to Cayman when I was 4, moved from Cayman to Turks and Caicos when I was 5. I remember growing up, 10, 11, 12, and we'd be laughing and saying, "Yeah, look at that old Jamaican," or "Look at that Haitian," and young, you're not even realizing where you come from because you don't even know where you come from, really and truly. You get older, you're working hard, you're doing what you are supposed to do if you want to make a contribution to society and yourself. All of a sudden, your peers who are originally and from here, you're in a conversation, you're like, "Oh yeah, boy, yeah, look at that Jamaican." No, they go, "Oh yeah, boy, y'all Jamaicans is something else." And they go, "Yeah, Mike, you Jamaican." You're looking around for like, where's this Jamaican Mike? Because you don't even realize that you were Jamaican because you've been here so long. And at that point, you realize, wow, I am a Jamaican. I am different. And you feel the blow that other people feel. 28 years, yet you still can't. Other individuals, I didn't even know they were from a different nationality until, again, they're making progress in society because people move away from their country to work. No one wants to leave home. And I think this is a reason for this topic. I don't want to be 20 years from now in running to the U.S. looking for a job because our politicians have, and again, it gets back to our leaders. Every country in the Caribbean starts out like this. Beautiful nation, Haiti, Jamaica, island of land, wood, and water. Beautiful destinations. What is the downfall of these nations? Politicians. I don't want to be that individual, and we have to be very careful. And I'm jumping all over the place because I am. That's just me, But there are certain things that need to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed. It just needs to be acknowledged. We can't sit in denial and act like things don't exist because they do exist.
Well, Michael, I'll agree with you, and I'll say there are things. National development encompasses so many things, and in particular, we in everyday conversation, we often try to avoid two things, and I always tell people this: politics and religion, and it's probably the two most uncomfortable topics for us to speak about outside of sex. Because you bring up the word sex and you see some people go, whoo.
Yeah.
But you bring up politics and that's when everybody want to leave.
Correct.
So we have to start getting comfortable discussing politics publicly.
What do you think caused that? What do you think caused that? Here, I was at the gym this morning and somebody mentioned the exact same thing. We are afraid to talk politics.
Yeah, I can't speak for the entire Caribbean, but I know in the Turks and Caicos, it's because we've been passive for so long. I mean, if you look around the Caribbean, and this is just my opinion, if you look around the Caribbean, you'll see that the only country that has never had a major political, social, or economic revolution has been the Turks and Caicos. And I always ask people, do you think that's because we're the most stable set of people in the Caribbean or because we've been the most easily pacified set of people in the Caribbean?
I think we've never had a reason to revolt or to have a revolution.
I totally
now the closest I would say the closest, and this is just from my lifetime, me looking back on things that have happened. I can't tell you before my but the closest that I know of that we've come to has been 1976 with Jakes McCartney and Norman Sanders and the whole changing of the Constitution and all that. I'd say that's the closest we came, and even then when Jakes died, that whole momentum kind of died with him. I'm not saying that the institutions died, but the momentum of the institutions died. And so I always tell people I have an affinity for how the PDM started, and not being political, but I have an affinity for how they started. I see where Jakes was going after sitting down and speaking to his widow and just having conversation with his kids and seeing letters written by him, so you get a sense of who the man is. I can't tell you who he was because I didn't sit with him, but you get a sense of it, right? And when you see it, you're like, man, if only. And so we have to find a way to get ourselves motivated to get back to that place where we want change as bad as we want to live. Yeah. And that's what I think we need to do. We have to want change as much as we want to live.
I think it's coming. I mean, every day you meet another individual like yourself, like this gentleman, like Jamel. I mean, you go out and you're talking to individuals in the society of all walks, all, and the consensus is, they want change. You talk to my age sect. Are you registered to vote? Yeah, but
I'm not voting.
I'm not voting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a consensus, and it shows
everyone.
that there's a disconnect with the current administration, and they don't either know the opposition or they're not inclined to vote, which is a sad case.
I think as millennials we just feel left out. Because
we are left out.
No, because I mean, if you look at it, a lot of times, a lot of the focus is on the senior citizens and then the youth. And when you speak youth, you're talking about persons, let's say, 21 and younger. Because I think that's my understanding. I stand to be corrected on that. But
No. I wasn't going to correct you. I was going to say our youth policy says, I think 35 and under, unless it's recently changed. I think it's 35 and under.
Yeah, but even though that's what the policy might say, you still have that divide where it's the even more the younger set of persons. Their concerns are more at the forefront because we know their situation. You understand? So for us, we want to have a voice. We want to bring about some change, but we have to just find the right avenue to do it. And I think, like Mr. Hutchinson said, we all have the same consensus. This is the first time me and Mr. Hutchinson have sat down together, and we basically have the same opinions, So I think we have to. I mean, TCI Patriots. I think it's a wonderful platform for individuals like us to definitely discuss the concerns of Turks and Caicos, just to be that voice, because you don't want everybody talking and saying, too much noise in the market. If everybody comes together and there's a general consensus, you have one voice that speaks out, and it will go out very strong. That you will have no other choice but to listen. So that's.
So I think we all kind of agree that the problem really is that we don't feel that our concerns are being addressed, and we don't feel that the current group of leaders are listening. I mean, they say they are, and I always tell people.
And not even when you say current, you mean across the spectrum?
I mean across the spectrum.
Yeah.
I don't mean one particular group. I mean everybody.
Yeah.
All right. And the thing I always tell people we have to understand, because a lot of people try to avoid politics, and I tell people I don't avoid it, because the reason being is before you even get out of bed, politics has decided a lot for you. It's decided where you can eat, where you can live, where you can send your children to school, how much you make, how much the government spends. So even before you get out of bed, that's already decided for you. Politics touches every facet of your life without you thinking about it. We don't often think about it. Right now, they're about to tell you what you can drive.
Yeah. I just saw
the proposal is no vehicles older than 10 years. So it's already decided that you can't buy a vehicle from 2001.
I mean, you can buy it, but you just can't.
Keep it out there. But again, that has to be looked at. It needs to be discussed. I mean, because maybe there are reasons that should happen. I mean, because I could find some reasons why it should.
You might have an antique car.
Well, that's different. I mean, for me, even within national development, we need to look at our motto: beautiful by nature. Whatever we're doing to direct the national plan, strategy, development for this country has to be based around that motto: beautiful by nature. I mean, again, I was speaking to a tourist at our restaurant, and she said she'd brought her mother in. She was here before, and she brought her mother in, and her mother jumped off the plane, and between her drive from the airport to downtown, she said, I feel like I am in a third world country. But then she passes IGA and everything changes. Again, a different perspective. I drive those roads every day. It
never occurred to you.
Yeah, it never.
But now you look at the breadbasket of our country tourism, and someone says that, and you drive again, and you're like, yeah, this does look a little sketchy if you've been coming here for the first time. So again, we really need to stay focused on beautiful by nature, not beautiful by Grace Bay. because this beautiful by nature.
Mhm.
I mean, for me, it's a serious thing
Well,
when you have to start for your national campaign. Everything is a picture of Grace Bay. Yes, again, it's designed to be our economic. They have the economic power, but they do not have the voting power. We do. We have the voting power. Yet, airport to IGA looks a certain type of way.
Well,
Why?
Well, what do you think about the fact that, and it's been something we've done consistently since 2003. It's almost every election year we tend to change the immigration ordinance. The strangest thing I found the other day, and it was something that really annoyed me, was that the government, in a matter of weeks, less than 3-4 weeks, went to the House of Assembly to change the ordinance to allow the governance decisions in respect to building heights to be irreversible, right?
Wow, I didn't know that.
In a matter of weeks. All right. And recently, not even recently, right? That happened in December. In that same December, we had beaches and other properties extend their property lines down to the water. Matter of fact, beaches has a full entire structure, a bridge and everything going out into the water, which we know is illegal. Illegal by the ordinance. Okay? As no beach can be private property. That's the law in Turks and Caicos, right? But we have properties in Grace Bay and other places claiming
Beach.
public land,
Yeah.
right? I mean, me and my wife went to the beach the other day, and there were some chairs sat not down near the water. And my wife said, "Baby, you can't sit there." And I told her, I said, "Look here. You sit there, I can sit here. Anybody come down here and tell you we got to move, I can tell them take their private chairs off my public beach." All right? Now, I say that to say, in an interview last month, this was the beginning of last month, the permanent secretary said, they issued notices to those properties to remove those structures and so forth. It hasn't happened. I saw it on Facebook no longer than yesterday. Those structures are still there.
Yeah.
They had 28 days to remove them. The permanent secretary says the ordinance is cumbersome. They can't work with it. It doesn't allow for them to go and remove the structures, right? Now, when you think about it, there are 4 people in government that have the power to remove these structures: the governor, the premier, the director of DEMA, and the director of planning. Okay? You mean to tell me that you can change an ordinance to allow for the governor's decision to be irreversible in regards to building heights, but you can't go and change an ordinance to allow for the people to have their land? I'm just thinking. That's a serious thing.
Let me tell you something. That's actually quite an interesting find for me. I was talking to a gentleman on the airport road the other day, and he was outside, in need of something. And in conversation, it came up that, again, it all goes back to government. It goes back to government. So his response was, well, the government of this day thinks they're going to get my vote, but it's not going to happen. And me just saying, I like to talk, so I just say things sometimes just to say it. I said, because I'm completely against it. I said, well, what you can do is take the money and not give them the vote. And he said, I'll tell you something. Now, this is a guy who was half drunk and not totally there. He said, well, I'll tell you this. Last election, I got sand, steel, everything to build a house, basically. And he named it all off. I just can't name it off now, but he named it all off. And he said, I took something from them, so now I worked for them. They could do whatever they want to do. They're my boss because I now work for them. This election, I am not taking anything for them because they're going to be answerable to me. When you start paying someone, they now work for you and are answerable to you.
Mm-hmm.
So as a people, we've gotten used to this, and this is Caribbean politics,
Mm-hmm.
where the politicians have the fishing rods, and they catch 100 fish, and they give us one fish because we're used to, or two fish because we're used to one fish. We're happy.
Mm-hmm.
Our generation, we don't want a fish. We want the rod.
We want the rod.
And this is basically what this guy said. And to conclude what I'm saying, is it Grace? Our politicians can't make decisions because they work for Grace Bay. The scariest thing, I was talking to someone in Grace Bay, and again, their first thing is, "You're not from here." I am from here. You don't get it twisted. I'm from
I
here.
get that all the time.
Yeah, so they say things sometimes that they don't realize that you're listening. I am from here.
Mm-hmm.
He was so concerned when I told him there's something happening. We're not interested in money. Our generation, we're not interested in money. We want a fishing line. We want a fish.
Ironically, I just recently said that same thing to someone. It's not about money.
No. And that's what I'm telling you. This election is going to be so. Politicians, please keep your money. We don't want it. We don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to work. We want our own. We don't want anything to be given that has to be taken back.
Yes, we want our own.
We want our own, and we're willing to work for it.
Yes, most definitely.
Now, we're digressing a bit here, but let me say this, and then I'll go into my next question. Recently, you've been hearing the word empower a lot, or empowerment. And I was sitting down with my wife, and I was telling her, the word empower, I'm getting so sick of it. It's making me sick, because I hear it so much. It's so overused. Everybody's empowering you. Everybody's giving you empowerment. And I said to her, it's not really empowerment. It's the appearance of it. Mm-hmm. I said, because the word empowerment essentially means to strengthen someone within their own capabilities, in particular as it relates to their day-to-day life, right? So for me to empower you is to make you independent of me.
Exactly.
Right? But so often I see where people are using this word, we're empowering Kyle and we're empowering Michael, and it's not really, because Michael and Kyle have to come back to you. Correct. In relation to whatever this thing is that you're giving them. And that's not empowerment, that's enslavement. Mm-hmm.
Because if I
have to come to you repeatedly, then I'm indebted to you. Correct. And the Bible tells us the borrower is slave to the lender. So if I gotta keep coming back to you, then I'm essentially enslaved to you.
And that's basically what that gentleman said.
And so my question is, what do you think we need to do to change this as young people? I mean, it's going to take more than us, because we need the older generation and we need the younger generation coming up.
I'll tell you what, and Kyle hit the nail on the head. It starts out with a discussion with your older generations will follow us.
Yeah.
They will follow us. It's not...
Because...
they will follow.
I mean, just to speak on my father a bit here, he is well-versed, in his field of work. And when we have discussions, he's very passionate in what he speaks on, and so he's very stern. So when you speak to those persons, they already made up their mind that this is the way it should go. But when you have a respectful and sensible conversation with them, you begin to change their mindset, because the things that happen in their era don't happen anymore. So at the same time, their input is just as important as your input. And with that, you're able to find new resolves where you're able to mix the old with the new.
Correct. Because we can't live without them, huh?
We can't live without them.
There's experience that we cannot learn or buy.
Exactly. and I always tell them, I said, listen, what I admire about a mature person is when they're able to teach me and show me and not feel intimidated by me.
Well, that goes back to, and taking it back to the whole central theme of national development. So often we've had a knowledge gap in TCI where persons have gained knowledge, and I'm talking local persons now. I'm not even talking about people who we bring in. I mean, we all well know how that goes often. But where persons have gained knowledge and haven't passed it on. They've retired from public service or from whatever their field is, and now we have to go and send someone else out to get the same knowledge that we can actually get in country, but that person hasn't passed it on.
But my answer to that is, if you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Because if you have that knowledge and you don't want to pass it on, and if you do pass it on, you only pass it on to a select few who's going to more or less do the same thing that you're doing. If you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Well, I'll say this much. I can remember I had a boss one time, and I went to him with an issue, and I said, boss, y'all paying us below minimum wage, and mind you, I was making about $600 a week, but I was working 12 hours a day, and I told him, I said, we're making below minimum wage, and he said, so Damian, what do you want me to do about it? I said, well, you're the boss. I said, you can change this with the stroke of a pen.
Exactly.
I say, ain't nothing to think about, So he looked at me and said, well, that's true, but I don't want to rock the boat. That's the way I meet it, so that's the way I can leave it.
I'll tell you what, Damian, it goes back to our underlying, we have some issues that we need to acknowledge. And locally, and I think it's a Caribbean thing. It comes from slavery,
It is.
It comes. We're battling some serious issues that we need to acknowledge them, where we don't want to see another man progress. I mean, and education helps release you from that, where you help another, one day for you, one day for me. You help each other, and we grow as a society. Again, nation building.
Well, it goes back to the whole idea of commonwealth, right? And the word. And the word commonwealth basically meant that my wealth is your wealth, is our wealth. So whatever I have is yours, whatever you have is mine. It's for us to lift each other up. And we see it often in Asian cultures, where if one brother goes to school, that one brother, while he in school, he's sending his notes home. You know why? Because the next brother got to be a doctor too.
Correct.
Or if one brother start a business, if he moved to the United States and he start a business in the United States, he can work until he bring all his family to the United States. When they done, they can work in that business till everybody owns something. And it's like that, and they perpetuate that idea of commonwealth. What I have is for us.
If everyone here were to adapt that mentality, Damian, how great of a nation would we be? How much greater of a nation would we be? Because we have something very special here. Very special. And I think this is again why I'm so passionate about this. We have something. We have almost every other island in the Caribbean has made blunders that we can jump online and Google. What blunders did Bahamas make? What blunders did Jamaica make? What blunders did Haiti make? We're still virgin in the sense that we can do the complete opposite and have one of the greatest nations, island nations in the world. And I think that's something national. Getting back to what we're discussing, national development is the key to do that. Having a master plan to deal with this. So,
with that in mind, what do you consider to be the immediate priorities for Turks and Caicos? Or what should be the immediate priorities in terms of national development?
Wow. For me, education. Educating our populace. And as a project, having the ability to work with some of our leaders. There's, even in this room, there's so much talent and so much ideas in this little room. You span across the Turks and Caicos. There is a lot in the younger generation. A lot. And again, it's going to, you can only hold something in a bottle for too long before it explodes. And there's, revolution is the word that I like to use. Which is a complete change that is imminent here in Turks and Caicos. Amongst this millennial generation, there is something happening. You see it, you hear it, people are listening, and a change is going to come. A change, when I say a change in our politics, a change is coming. We want better. We see where we can go as a nation. we can see down the line. We have Google. I mean, that's one of the best things in terms
That's
of...
a very powerful
We
tool.
have Google. That's
I always Google is my best friend.
It is. We have Google. I mean, our leaders can jump on Google and say, how do I make an island better? Bing. Okay, bam. 1, 2, 3. We have access to it. But again, maybe they're not thinking that because they're not millennials. That's how we think. We're always trying to learn. We don't know it all.
We don't.
We don't know it all.
Precisely.
We don't know it all.
Precisely.
We can ask. We can be wrong. We can even be wrong. It's okay to be wrong.
Now we got 4 minutes left before we got to wrap this up, and I wanted to ask this question. And before I ask the question, I'm say a little something. In 1976, we had 3 of the main problems was more power for the local government, less reliance on expatriate workers, and youth unemployment. In 2016, going into the election,
Same problem.
3 of the main problems are more power for the local government, youth unemployment, and less reliance on expatriate workers. Now, mind you, we've developed the country, but we still have the same problems. So have we actually changed society? Have we?
No.
No.
I think Jags would turn in his grave if he were, or if Jags were around. He would be so disappointed that the legacy that he left, what he left for us, that 40 years later, it's the same thing. And no credit to myself. There's a gentleman by the name of Jazz who mentioned something to me that was profound. He said every 40 years in the Bible with the ark,
There's a
huge change. 2016, 40 years later, guess what? It's going to happen.
Time for change.
A change. We want something different. We want something different. I thought that was so profound. And Kyle and Damian, speaking to you guys, we are part of a movement, because a movement is when someone agrees on something. You have now added to the energy of this change.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you guys are as passionate as me and speaking to other people, and that energy is
Of course,
growing.
man. I see it every day. I see it every day.
I sorry for cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
I told a lady at work a few minutes ago, I said, I might be born in the Bahamas, but I do not have a desire to go back. And she said, why? I said, Turks and Caicos, especially Provo, is what I know. This is my home. When I'm abroad, when I say I want to go home, I want to go back to Provo. And nobody better get in my way when I want to go back to Provo. And they asked me, what is so special about Provo? Come and see for yourself.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, as I always tell people, I was born in the Turks and Caicos, grew up in the Turks and Caicos, but I've spent time in other countries and other places, and I like to think of myself, and I always tell people this. No disrespect to anybody else. I like to say I am a true Turks and Caicos Islander, and by that I mean I have one grandparent from each island. From one from Provo, one from North Caicos, one from South, and one from Grand Turk. So I lay claim everywhere, right? But in that sense, I always tell people I could care less about where you're from and more about where your heart is. And if your heart is here, and if your heart is for building the Turks and Caicos and for seeing a better future, then let's do it. And that's all I care about. And we got 2 minutes left. I'm being told we got 2 minutes. So anything you guys want to say within that 2 minutes?
I just want to thank you for having me on this afternoon to voice my opinion on, national development and what it means to me, and how we all can work together in achieving that goal. It'll take us, a day at a time, but at least we know that we all have the same goal in mind. And I think that is the central point that will continuously drive us towards, the finish.
And if I could, there's nothing much more to add to what Kyle said. I share the same sentiments. Thank you again for having me. And I think at the end of the day, we're all just after better Turks and Caicos.
Amen to
national
that.
pride. It's what it's about.
Amen to that. And I will leave that there, Turks and Caicos, and I'll just say thank you guys for having us. For listening, for being out there. God bless each and every one of you. And, I pray that in 2016 we can move forward.
Excellent.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
fire for